The years go by and the litany of incredible games we've experienced fades into memory. However, there's always the promise of something new, and in the games industry, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of worthwhile titles to look forward to. As overwhelming as it can be, we've selected 45 single-player games to get hyped for in 2025 and beyond. With the sheer variety, the coming years will be one heck of a ride. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. The Metroid Prime series has always received renown for its fun gameplay loop while packing challenging bosses, incredible environments, and devious puzzles. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond looks to offer just as much, but really the promise of a new Retro Studios title after all of these years is enough for us. South of Midnight. Southern folklore-inspired action-adventure title South of Midnight follows Hazel on her journey as a weaver, mending the grand tapestry, fighting off the haints, and dealing with mythical creatures. The aesthetic and combat have looked fairly solid thus far, and with 15 to 25 hours of gameplay promised, depending on who you ask at Compulsion Games, it could offer a meaty fantasy adventure unlike any other. Pokémon Legends ZA. The return to Pokémon X and Y's Kalos has been a long time coming, but spending the entire game in Lumiose City, which is undergoing significant changes, well, count us in, especially if Pokémon Legends ZA leverages the same action-packed gameplay as Arceus. The prospect of venturing across the cityscape, interacting with new characters and Pokémon while admiring the skyline is tantalizing enough as is. Sniper Elite Resistance. If sending Kyle Fairburn in to devastate the Nazis isn't enough, Harry Hawker joins the fray in Sniper Elite Resistance, working with the Resistance in France to stop a new Wunderwaffe. Though sniping is a core part of the gameplay, right down to considering bullet drop and wind direction, you can also utilize a variety of handguns, SMGs, and whatnot. Best of all, the entire campaign is playable in co-op, like its predecessor, thus enabling even more Nazi-slaying shenanigans. Assassin's Creed Shadows. Sneak into a heavily guarded castle at night, grappling and swimming while taking out sentries, or bust through the front door to overwhelm enemies in melee combat. Whatever your approach, Assassin's Creed Shadows will facilitate both, courtesy of its dual protagonists. Of course, other aspects like seasons and how they affect certain tactics have us excited on top of building a network of spies to locate and take down targets. The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak 2. Van Arkride and friends return in Falcom's next title in the Legend of Heroes series. While the central mystery revolves around a mysterious Red Grendel wreaking havoc in Edith, the story branches off into multiple chapters with different characters and mechanics. Meanwhile, the combat system has improved with new additions like cross-charge and EX chains. How things will pan out, especially considering the next chapter in the series, remains to be seen, but Trails Through Daybreak 2 should be another excellent addition to the series. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. What happens when Goro Majima wakes up in an island in Hawaii with no memories? Well, of course, he obtains his own ship, the Goromaru, recruits a crew from over 100 characters, and sails the seas as a pirate. As if there were any other possibility. Promising a larger size and longer campaign than Like a Dragon Gaiden, Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii looks like a pure escapist fantasy between its ship battles, new melee styles, and its eclectic cast. Borderlands 4. Gearbox Software is back with a new Borderlands, which is considered the most ambitious yet. Play as one of 4 new Vault Hunters, or all 4 in co-op, who ends up on the chaotic planet of Kairos. Things have taken a turn with its ruler, the Timekeeper, fighting against the Rippers, but your purpose remains the same. Shoot enemies, amass loot, upgrade skills, repeat. And in terms of sheer variety, Borderlands 4 looks like the best yet. The first Berserker Kazan. Vengeance is a dish best served with rage, as Nexon's upcoming hardcore action RPG proves. Seeking justice against the Pelos Empire for betraying him, players control Kazan, as he makes a pact with the Blade Phantom and annihilates his enemies. Parries, executions, split-second dodges, counterattacks, it's all part of your, and even some enemies' repertoire with unforgiving boss fights. Whether that sounds like your kind of challenge or not, the first Berserker Kazan is shaping up into something special. Mafia The Old Country. The Mafia series takes the prequel route with The Old Country, venturing to the 1900s Sicily with a more rural setting. Vehicles are still a thing, but you'll also get around on horseback and engage in close-quarter knife fights. The story of Enzo Favara, who goes from an indentured laborer to working in the Don Torrisi family, is rife with intrigue, drama, and action, and we cannot wait to play it for ourselves. Death Stranding 2 on the beach. How exactly does one summarize everything we've seen from Death Stranding 2 on the beach thus far? Higgs with an octopus-like thing in a BB pod while wielding a guitar and belting out a sick riff. Tarman piloting the DHV Magellan while creating literal cats out of tar. Dollman. The list just goes on. Regardless, it's Hideo Kojima, and if his unfettered imagination leads to another memorable experience, well, who are we to complain? Ghost of Yotei. In Hokkaido, about 329 years later, a new ghost arises, hunting down enemies and seemingly communicating with wolves. Ghost of Yotei already looks incredibly sharp, and with Sucker Punch ensuring the open world offers more variety and less repetition, it is poised to top the original. Of course, the prospect of dual swords, firearms, and other potential new tools have us all excited. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. It's been quite the wait for series fans, but Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater looks to be a treat. On top of revamping the visuals with Unreal Engine 5 and transforming environments and cutscenes, it packs a new modern control scheme and perspective, and quality of life features like the compass and quick dial. Of course, for those who want the signature look and feel of the original, a legacy control style and filter are present. Doom: The Dark Ages. Thus far, we've seen the Doomslayer annihilate enemies with hammers, swords, chainsaws, and various ridiculous firearms. So how about a flail and shield that doubles as a buzzsaw? Even as Doom: The Dark Ages promises weightier, more hard-hitting combat, the set pieces and moments, combined with the promise of new enemies, looks more incredible than ever. Where Winds Meet. NetEase has been racking up some fairly significant wins like Once Human and Marvel Rivals. Where Winds Meet is single-player focused with players surviving after the Tang Dynasty's collapse. With a large open world promising combat and martial arts choreography by the award-winning Stephen Tung, it could prove a dark horse among action RPGs. Elden Ring Night Rain. Who would have thought that From Software would look at co-op titles and decide it could do one better? The land of Limveld is one suffering under the Night Lord, but first, you need to power up, and yes, you can go it alone and cut through other bosses. As the map changes on each run, it's an intriguing mix of roguelike and optional multiplayer combined with Elden Ring's awesome combat. Best of all, the developer is aiming for a full experience rather than catering to the live service crowd and pricing it accordingly. Marvel 1943: Rise of Hydra. Marvel titles have overwhelmingly focused on modern-day settings, but with Rise of Hydra, Skydance New Media is venturing to Paris during World War II. Featuring the likes of Captain America, Gabriel Jones, Black Panther, and Nanali, the goal is simple: band together and stop Hydra's rise. It looked very good thus far, and given the sheer talent at the helm, we cannot wait to see how it pans out. Perfect Dark. Joanna Dark finally returns in the long-awaited sequel to the acclaimed spy thriller series. The stealth and immersive sim aspects already look fantastic, whether you're harnessing deepfakes and disguises to fool enemies or leveraging close-quarters combat and firearms to slay. If Perfect Dark can capture even a quarter of what made the original so great, we are in for something special. Mouse PI for Hire. If you're a fan of the 1930s cartoon style from Cuphead but prefer first-person shooters, Mouse PI for Hire might be the solution. As former war hero turned PI Jack Pepper, you'll battle goons throughout Mouseburg, discovering new weapons and even taking on bosses. Whether it's the 2D animated characters, film noir environments, or sheer ridiculousness of the action, Mouse PI for Hire looks like a blast. The Alters. 11-Bit Studios is known for its social survival strategy games like Frostpunk, but with The Alters, it's taking a sci-fi approach. Stuck on a planet with a hostile sun's rays looming even closer, Jan Dolsky must do everything he can to survive, like creating alternate versions of himself. Together they manage a space station and try not to kill each other over their current predicament, at least as best as possible. Okami Sequel. If there's any game that seemed like it would never receive a sequel, it was Okami. However, in what was likely the biggest surprise at the Game Awards 2024, the developer announced an Okami sequel, developed by a newly established studio called Clovers. Development has only just begun, but returning in a new adventure is all we need. Onimusha: Way of the Sword. The funny thing about the Okami sequel announcement is it seemed like the developer tried to one-up itself after announcing a sequel to Onimusha, which hasn't received a true sequel since 2006's Dawn of Dreams. Nevertheless, with Kyoto as the setting and the Oni Gauntlet returning as players hunt down Genma in shadowy stages, it appears to offer everything that we love about the series and more. Silent Hill F. Silent Hill 2 Remake is a success, but what's next for the survival horror franchise? While there's Townfall, Neobards' Silent Hill F is arguably more intriguing. Not only does it occur in a brand new setting, a rural town in the 1960s, but also features characters and monster designs by Kara instead of Masahiro Ito. Furthermore, the story is by Ryukishi 07 of Higurashi and Umineko fame, so if there's one thing for sure, it's that nothing will be as it seems. Kronos The New Dawn. After proving everyone wrong and delivering an incredible remake of Silent Hill 2, Bloober Team's next game is something completely different. Kronos The New Dawn occurs in a post-apocalyptic future where the change has devastated humanity. As the traveler, you'll need to go back in time to the 1980s, Poland, and transport the essence of key individuals to the future. Combat is taking cues from Resident Evil and Dead Space, and as always, the visuals look stunning. Post-Trauma. Offering a more old-school survival horror complete with fixed camera angles and tank controls, Post-Trauma focuses on train conductor Roman, who's pulled into a terrifying world. Naturally, there are monsters to avoid and puzzles to solve, but why is this happening? The Silent Hill vibe is notable, and we're keen to see where things go. Atomfall. Titles like Fallout and Stalker utilize post-nuclear settings in different ways, but Atomfall shines a light on the UK's wind-scale fire to deliver its story. Awakening with no memories and instructed by a mysterious phone booth to kill Oberon, the player ventures through the world, running afoul of cults and interacting with militaristic protocol. How did things end up this way, and what is Bard hiding? Find out by scrounging up weapons and materials or letting your fists do the talking. Alien Isolation Sequel. After years and years of demands for a sequel, Creative Assembly finally confirmed that a sequel to Alien Isolation is in development. The IP has seen its share of changes over the years, between the terrible Prometheus and the promising alien Romulus. Here's hoping that Alien Isolation 2, or whatever it ends up being called, can surpass its predecessor's horror quotient, and maybe deliver even more and smarter xenomorphs. Light No Fire. Hello Games announced Light No Fire as their first real open-world game, and while it sounds far-fetched, it's not joking with the scale. The survival sandbox RPG occurs on an Earth-sized planet where you can build, explore, fight, and gather materials across a range of biomes. The ability to go anywhere, be it the highest mountains or the deepest seas, is tantalizing for sure, and given its progress with No Man's Sky, Hello Games could just pull it off. Gears of War E-Day. While serving as a prequel to the mainline series, Gears of War E-Day promises to shape the future of the franchise, as the Coalition describes it. Chronicling the story of Marcus Phoenix and Dominic Santiago at the start of the Locust assault on Sarah, it promises a return to linear storytelling and the franchise's horror roots. Even if the Gears 5 cliffhanger is a bother, E-Day truly sounds too good to miss. Directive 8020. Supermassive Games' next narrative adventure seemingly drops the Dark Pictures tagline and embraces a more sci-fi body horror premise akin to The Thing. As the Cassiopeia crashes on Tau Ceti F, colonization takes a backseat when a deadly alien mimics the ship's crew. Players control Young and must leverage stealth and good old doubt to decide who to trust. A time-worn premise, but one we're looking forward to more of, especially given the staggering visual fidelity. Max Payne 1 and 2 Remake. When you think of era-defining shooters, Max Payne 1 and 2 sometimes feel overlooked, which is a shame. Their addictive combat brought player-controlled bullet time to the foray, while the noir storytelling pushed boundaries with its use of graphic novel-style panels. With Remedy remaking both games into one package alongside Rockstar Games, there is no doubt that this will be a winner. The Sinking City 2. Following all of the trouble Frogwares had with the original game's delisting and distribution, it's nice to see it follow up on The Sinking City. The city of Arkham looks more terrifying than ever, with the occult, deep ones, and brand new horror stalking you at every turn. Of course, the investigative mechanics also return, and everything looks amazing, courtesy of Unreal Engine 5. Jin Design's next game. After signing with Epic Games to publish its next game, Jin Design finally revealed what's next in a new teaser, featuring a ruined world and a mysterious character clambering atop a giant robot to escape a massive shockwave. We have so many questions. However, with Fumito Ueda at the helm, there's no denying this will be a classic like Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian. Project Century. RGG studios and beat-em-up games and detailed worlds bustling with activities is almost always an instant win. But there's more to Project Century than meets the eye. Set in 1915 Japan, it features way more brutality and greater emphasis on weapons. A more grounded version of Yakuza set in older times? Well, we're into it either way. Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster. If Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes didn't fill that Suikoden-shaped hole in your library, why not engage with the actual classics? Konami is bringing Suikoden 1 and 2 to modern platforms, complete with HD backgrounds, updated effects, autosave, the option to fast forward during battles, and more. Each game is renowned for its storytelling, combat, and incredible cast, and the remaster could be the best way to experience them. Little Nightmares 3. After the previous game's nightmarish trips through the Pale City, Little Nightmares 3 transplants players into even more devious scenarios. As Low and alone, with the AI controlling the other character, players seek a way out of nowhere, having to cross the necropolis and the monster baby guarding it, the supervisor's candy factory, and more. Regardless of the connection to previous titles, the creepy vibes and platforming are on point, and that is all that we need. Dying Light: The Beast. While Kyle Crane's return feels like the most break glass to rejuvenate franchise interest action for Techland, I'm stoked for Dying Light: The Beast. Rampaging through a new forest setting with vehicles and infected-like powers, not knowing how to trust and attempting to survive the nights, well, it's Dying Light at its core. Crimson Desert. An open-world action RPG with an expansive environment and tons of game mechanics. Where have we heard of this before? Well, regardless, Crimson Desert is shaping up into something more. We've seen teases of transformations and skydiving, floating islands, mysterious ruins, overwhelming bosses, real-time destruction, and the list goes on. Whether the hype is justified or not, it should be on your radar. Grand Theft Auto 6. The most anticipated game, Grand Theft Auto 6 is the killer app. It's almost everyone's must-play game. The incredible scale and visuals promising new protagonists, modern-day Vice City, well, everything looks fantastic, even all of the teases of wackiness and chaos. Phantom Blade Zero. Fast-paced hack-and-slash combos meet precise parrying and weapon management in S-Games' Phantom Blade Zero. Mixing steampunk and martial arts, your goal is revenge against the Order, which means cutting down the opposition in extravagantly violent ways. A challenging affair to be sure, but one where the gameplay and visuals already look fantastic. Fable. Among the many IPs that have shown promise over the decades, it always felt like Fable could always be something more, especially after the second game. Playground Games' reboot may deliver on just that, between its sleek visuals and intriguing action. Based on everything we've seen thus far, it's looking like a magical adventure for Xbox Series X and S players. The Witcher 4. New environments, new monsters, a world map that's more or less the same in size as The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, with the same level of quest density, Ciri as the main character. Even if it is a way off, The Witcher 4 is doing everything right. Expectations are high, of course, but given CD Projekt Red's transformation post-Cyberpunk 2077, there is no doubt that it can surpass them. Monster Hunter Wilds. You could consider Monster Hunter Wilds to be Monster Hunter World 2.0 in many ways, but even without considering the new herds and changing environments, there is so much great stuff. Attack skills on weapons, setting up camp almost anywhere in the world, not having to return to base after each hunt, new moves, and the list just goes on. Needless to say, we are excited for the full game, roar stuns and all. Wu Chan Fallen Feathers. If one Chinese action RPG with solid combat isn't enough, there's also Lin Zi's Wu Chan Fallen Feathers. Occurring during the late Ming Dynasty, there's more emphasis on dark fantasy than where winds meet. Players control the amnesiac Wu Chan, fighting off horrors and attempting to save the land of Shu from the feathering. Multiple endings ensure that your decisions matter, but the combat alone looks worth the price of admission. Hell is Us. With all the open world games coming up, sometimes a semi-open world title with a dark premise and atmosphere could be all that you need. Nakon's Hell is Us fills that role, offering hack-and-slash action with its heavy atmosphere and imaginative enemies. The lack of a map or quest markers focusing on raw exploration also sounds intriguing, and we cannot wait to see where it takes us. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.